Toi te arapuoru, SOUNZ.
E ngā reo, e ngā mana, rauranga tira mā, tēnā koutou katoa. Talofa lava, kamna Māori, pakalofa lahi atu, and warm Moana greetings. You're with the podcast series SOUNZ Podcast, Culture, Music, and Climate Change from a Kiribati lens for SOUNZ Centre for New Zealand Music, Aotearoa, ko Tau'ili'ili Alpha Maiava ahau, o Leoné o Tau'ili'ili Alpha Maiava. That is My Bestie, written and performed by Betaia Nehemiah, a well-known music composer, vocalist, producer, and a strong advocate for the youth of his island nation of Kiribati. Born on the island of Peru, one of the small islands that makes up the Republic of Kiribati, Betaia is the youngest of 3 children and is a father of 5 himself. In the first episode of this 3-part series, we get to know the moment when music and Betaia came together and his journey from humble beginnings to growing up in Nauru to the discovery of his unique sound.
My name is Betaia Nehemiah and I'm 48 years old and I'm in a family of 3, myself and my 2 older sisters, my dad and mom. So there's only 5 of us in the family and I'm the youngest in the family. And I'm married, I got 5 kids. We moved to New Zealand in 2002 with my wife because my wife was a descendant of New Zealander. And that's the reason why we choose New Zealand to be our home apart from Kiribati.
What do you mean that your wife is a descendant of a New Zealander?
She's a descendant of New Zealand because her grandfather was a soldier during the Second World War. And during those times, they were like, I think there was 20-something of them. I can't remember the number, but they were deployed by, that was when they were under the British Army to go to Kiribati and work there as coast watchers. And her granddad met a Kiribati woman from there, and which is happened to be her grandmother.
Okay. Tell me about how music entered your life. You know, was it as guilty as all islanders where it was forced down your throat from church? Whether you wanted to sing or not? Or tell me, how did music enter the great Betaia's life?
I think music really got into me when I was so little before going to Nauru. Because my dad, I remember he's got a guitar and I was playing guitar. I was so little listening to, the sound of the guitar. And I was very fond of it, I don't know how to play it, but, as a little boy listening to, a guitar is something very interesting. I always listen to my dad when he's playing guitar and singing some Kiribati songs. But back then too, my dad, he's a good man, my dad. But, he involved in drinking and all that, after work and all that. He comes home sometimes, he was drunk, pick up a guitar and playing all night, And I was looking at him, and then I remember back in the day, there was a song they always played on the radio, and they always play it every night. And I can recall this song, and it's every time I listen to this song, like I'm always like feeling emotional when I because the song was talking about a drunken dad, and the mom is passed away, mother is far, but the song was like. It's an old song, but they make it into Kiribati song, translate the meaning, the English song into Kiribati. And the song goes like this. My father is a drunkard, my mother is dead, and I'm alone in hope and shine, something like that. And I was like, every time they played it on the radio, man, I just feel so emotional.
Was the version you heard Was it a Kiribati version?
Yeah, it was a Kiribati version. And in Kiribati version, Ta meo e sia ni mete. Ta e te sia mangi. Meaning to say mangi is a strong cup. Sinau is my mother. E sia ni mete. No, it's already died. Oh, sing I na petite. I'm alone, a little boy. You know, it's just, when I record this song, it was just so,
Oh, man.
so emotional back in the day.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, and I always,
powerful.
I always look at my dad every time he play a guitar, and I told him, "Can you play that song for me?" And he played, and then I always ask my dad, "Will you be that person for the rest of your life?" And mom's gonna be passed away, and I'm gonna be left alone, you know, something like that. And my dad was looking at me, he was crying as well. "No, son, don't you say that, such words like that to me." And I was like, no, brother. Yeah, and I always say that. My dad knows. And then that's when music, hits me from that song. It's just very, emotional the way I recall it, remembering the time my dad would always play a guitar in front of me. And then when we went to Nauru, I remember my dad, because we never had a TV at home. And I remember my dad bought our first TV.
In Nauru.
In Nauru. And I was like, oh, that was good. We watched TV all day. Even when I come back from school, I know how to, those, what you call it?
Big giant boxes.
The VHS, but back in the day, they called it Betamax or something, before VHS released. So I always put a cassette there and watch movies, kids' movies as well, something like, with musical stuff.
And so that helped reinforce your love for music.
Yeah. And then I remember my dad came back and there's a video library over there, and he came back with one cassette and he put it in the Betamax and we watched it. And it happened to be Michael Jackson.
Wow.
I was so tiny that time, and I was like, And then that was my favorite tape, and I told Dad, "Hey, Dad, when you go again, can you ask them that you rehire the cassette again?" "Oh, I will." Okay. So every time you go and return the cassette, he always keep that. So he keep coming, and I always play it. Every time I come back from school, I play it. And I sing my heart out, and in the lounge or sometimes in my room, playing that music, and I just sing along with it. I remember the song really captured me was like Billie Jean. I was so tiny and I was singing Billie Jean right at the top of my lungs, And
you answered my question, because my question is, what was the song that stood out for you?
Oh, okay.
Man. It's funny because, you and I are both sons of the great Moana, and these things were brought into our lives, right?
Yeah.
We grew up in music, but then when they capture them and put them in those little tapes and you get to watch them, man, because you have time to interpret in your mind how this music and this guy that's dancing and flying and look like he's walking, but he's going backwards. My Lord, what's it doing to my mind? So Michael Jackson entered the picture, and Betaia got inspired.
Yeah, I think Michael Jackson really captured a lot, inspired a lot of people.
Because he was everything.
He
right?
was everything. Yeah.
You watch musicians these days. One person sing, other people dance.
Yeah.
Michael Jackson, sing, dance, break, and then run and jump.
Yeah.
But here's the one thing about Michael Jackson. He never runs out of oxygen.
Exactly, man.
Right?
Yeah.
He'll be like jumping, and then when he comes up, but nowadays, when you hear artists sing, they're like, hold on, please, I'm running. Never.
Running out of breath.
Rest in peace to the King of Pop.
Amen. Rest in peace to King of Pop.
Inspired by Michael Jackson, and then your musical journey started. When did you start looking at becoming a recording artist? And then I guess I don't know whether it exists in Kiribati yet, but a commercial recording Kiribati artist.
Yeah, I remember I had a friend when we saw, that's when, just before going to high school. I was in like still in primary, or like probably 9 to 10 years old at that time. And we had a keyboard at school. And the keyboard belongs to one of our teacher. And every time he plays music, we go there and watch him play. So my mate was very keen to, put his hands on the keyboard. And he asked the teacher if he can, teach him how to play the keyboard. So she taught him how to, play the keyboard. Then one day he came to my house and he goes, "Betaia, I'm good now. I think we can make a song." And I was like, "Are you kidding me? Yeah, I think we can make a song." So he came with the keyboard and he's got all the drums on it, see? So he played. "Hey, what was that song you always sing? Billie Jean." "I will play Billie Jean." But I remember he played like off tune sometimes, And I said, "I don't think that's how you play it."
I don't think that's Billie Jean. I think that's Barry Jean.
Yeah, so that's how it started. And I remember we recorded our first song, and it's funny, back in the day, old instrument, but we used a keyboard and a microphone, and we plug it into a tape recorder and a microphone, because we only plugged the microphone to the tape recorder and the keyboard, and we put the mic on the speaker so that it captured the sound of the. And every time he played it, I have to sing like this on the. It was funny. My dad came back one day. He was looking at us. "You guys look stupid doing that."
I'm like, "Don't worry, Daddy. This is how they make superstars." Wow.
And I remember that was the first time we recorded ourselves on a cassette, and we were so show off with that, because we take it around and we play it to the kids. "This is our first recording that we did, because his name is He's from Tuvalu.
Okay.
But he passed away. Sorry for him. He was one of the, because we did, ended up in a band after that, me and him. And he's gone too famous too in the Marshall Islands, because he went to Marshall Islands. And with that, Ponape, he's famous around that area.
And the beautiful islands that the Palangi called Micronesians.
Yeah. There was this funny thing is our tape recorder, one day it was not working, and we found out that it's the cord, that power. I think it was the the transformer inside. What was it? But it's got a battery, those
giant batteries.
So we took that one off, and how are we gonna put this? No, that cord.
Yeah.
We cut the. We strip it. And it's got a negative and a positive. Yeah. So we put the other one on the negative and the positive, and we turn it on. And I remember my dad came back and, "Hey, what are you guys doing? Don't you guys, this is risky. You guys going to end up,
We want to be stars, Daddy. We want to be superstars. We want to be like Michael Jackson. We want someone else to watch our video 100 years from today and be inspired."
And then I remember my dad took that off, rip it off. "You're not using this anymore." And we were me and my friend was like, "Oh no, that's sad, Dad." Yeah. And then I remember my dad came back with a new one.
Wow.
He bought us a new one. I got you a new stereo.
That you still have to sing with.
We still have to sing. Oh, I was like, "Oh, thank you, Dad. Thank you for understanding our interest."
When and where did you record your first song that Kiribati globally started hearing, and then your name started coming up within the Kiribati community itself? Where did that happen, and what song was it?
Okay, I remember, because my friend he was famous before me. I was still schooling, and I remember he wrote me when I was, back in the day we got no phones or something, but he wrote me a letter. I was still in Fiji, and he sent me a letter. "Betaia, remember that song you wrote? The first song that you wrote?" Yeah, and I wrote that song when I was only 13 years old. When we first came back from high school, he was studying in the Mormon church in Tarawa, and I was studying in the Catholic church. That was in the outer island of Kiribati, in the Betaia. And we came back for Christmas break in Nauru because all our parents are teachers as well. His parents are teachers as well. And then we came back for holiday, Christmas holiday. And I remember he came to me and said, I met a girl at school. I was like, what? I met a girl at school and I'm so in love with this girl, man. And I really want to make a song for it. I was like sitting there, are you kidding me? Because myself back in those days, I never think about a woman, I only think about school. And I look at him, that's so new. Now you introduce me to, to a woman now, because I never had that idea in my life.
Well, you have one of the, do you talk to girls? Okay,
and then I remember you guys, can you write me a song? Are you kidding me? I don't know how this, write a song. Please, Betaia, write me a song. And then I remember saying, what's the name of the girl? Yeah. And where's she from? She's from that island, blah, blah. Okay. So I listening to some of the Kiribati music, how they, do a love song. And I keep listening to them, just before I wrote a song. This is how they do it. Okay. Then I started. Took a pen and a paper and I just sit there. I was only 13 years old. And I start writing a song and I remember this song goes, I come here at the pen and away yo. No, it's like it's saying, my heart was shocked when I first saw this beautiful face.
Are you sure you were going to school, Betaia? That's the lyrics of a very romantic and hard, brother. Wow. And so you kept it or you gave it to him?
I gave it to him. And then I remember he wrote me I wrote him a song, and then he wrote me when I was in Fiji. He goes, that song you wrote? Yeah, it's a top song now in Kiribati. And then what? Every time I go around the island, they always want me to sing that song. Oh, thank you, brother. Thank you. And what did you say? I wrote it. What did you say? I wrote it. You wrote it. So you made yourself famous of my writing. And he was laughing. Please, brother. Please. Make me famous for now. Then I start writing wedding songs, birthday songs. It started off with that first. And even love songs. I wrote heaps of songs for them, this band. And they always play it. And every time they just before they sing it, they said, this song was written by Betaia Nehemiah.
Wow.
And I wasn't a singer at that time. I was just behind the scene,
So you began your career as a composer?
Yeah, composer, yeah.
That is amazing. When did you first record your commercial venture where you went from composer into literally singing?
It happens in 2005. 2006.
In Kiribati?
In Kiribati. Yeah. In Kiribati. No, not 2006. Sorry. 1996. It happens in 1996. And that's when they want me to sing, because they go, Betaia, you can write a song. How about you sing as well? And then Fomai goes, he can sing that, boy, because I was a keyboarder back then and he was a singer.
How many songs do you think you've written, if you were to take a guess, like a number in the sky, including the one you wrote for Fomai?
Yeah. That was the first.
Yeah. How many songs do you think you've composed to date? The ones not just for you, but because it sounds like you were writing for other people before you started writing for yourself. If you can think of a number in the sky, what would it be between this number and that number?
I think it's more than 50 songs now, to be honest. Yeah, somewhere there.
And that's a combination of your own and what you've written for other people. Mm-hmm. Wow.
Just 50 songs, to be honest. Yeah.
Those 50 songs, was it all in Kiribati or were like a mixed match? Some were half Kiribati, half English, or
mostly in Kiribati when I first start writing songs, and then after that it was kind of like mixed. Yeah.
You kind of wrote the feeling.
Yeah,
there,
I remember I was singing in Tuvalu as well, because there was a composer, Tuvaluan composer, and he heard about me and he goes, Betaia, I heard that song on the radio. And about I changed the second verse into Tuvaluan. And then he wrote it in Tuvalu and gave it to me.
Wow.
And when I sung first, record that song, we released it and the Tuvaluan people heard it. And it's gone famous in Tuvalu as well.
That's amazing.
So, yeah, I'm glad there's someone from another language that wanted to, collaborate with my work and something like that. Yeah. And
where would you say is the music industry in Kiribati at the moment? Is it in a new up-and-coming phase, or is it sort of maturing?
I think today our music is just, it's sometimes it's ongoing and sometimes pausing at the same time. Because my point of view is, and the problem is that there wasn't any, like a platform that, we are working with to make our Kiribati music, like stable, because it's up and down. But I can see there's a lot of people nowadays that they self-taught themselves, in music. They put their hands on, instruments, and I'm so proud of them, I've worked with some, good musicians in Kiribati as well. And like you said, there's a blind guy that that was doing a studio there, and there's one in Kiribati as well. He's very famous in Kiribati. His name is Tipuatang. And I always tell them, our music can't grow if we are not working hard ourselves individually, If you, as a drummer, work hard on your instrument, because we understand that our government is not backing us up, As you can see, we don't learn it from school at all. We don't learn those from primary and secondary school and tertiary school. The only thing that we learn is only notes, how to sing a note. That's all we know in Kiribati. So in Kiribati, there's a lot of people that they can beat a note, how to sing with a note, because that's the only thing that they learn on the island, which is like a custom now in these days and back then as well.
Would you like to see music as part of the learning curriculum?
Yeah.
If that's a desire, because you talk about growth.
Yeah,
right?
I really want to see Kiribati in the future, to be, more improved in music, and maybe, we get our name out there, As I'm starting to see nowadays, there's a lot of young people now, they're grown in music, and I can see the way they make their music, and all the music that you're talking about, they're doing as well. They're doing those nowadays, and I was like, oh, that's really, I'm happy to experience that our people are, doing well in music.
You are more than a friend, my bestie. You are more than a woman, my bestie. Every day, every night, dreaming about you. Go ahead, warm me.
This podcast was produced and presented for Sounds Centre for New Zealand Music, Aotearoa, by me, Tau'ili'ili Alpha Maiava, funded by the Stout Trust. The sound engineer is Phil Brownlee, and music by Betaia Nehemiah. Thank you, Maloa Pito, ko pas nirapa to our guest, Betaia Nehemiah. For more about this podcast and other SOUNZ podcasts, and information about the music of Aotearoa New Zealand, go to the SOUNZ Podcast website, sounds.org.nz. That's SOUNZ. No reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Maloa pito, whawhetai te re lava.
Toi te ara pūru, Sound.